When Yun Jung Im awakes the next day, Lee Jung Woo is gone. He left her a note saying that he won't be coming to school, and not because of studying. This causes concern, of course. But on the other end, Jung Woo is getting plenty of texts. The boss, Jin Woo, and of course, Ki Min Bum are all reaching out to him. The boss with a threat and a promise of forgiveness. Kim Jin Woo with a false warning, as well as the info that his phone can be tracked. And In Bum telling him what the real deal is. Lucky for Jung Woo, Ponytail happens to be walking by, so he can use a phone that isn't being tracked to make a call to Do Hyun. In the meantime, Ponytail begins enjoying a lollipop, possibly to help deal with the task to quit smoking. When Jung Woo asks Do Hyun for some money, it confuses Do Hyun because Jung Woo's family is rich, which is the first time we hear that. Now, one thing I learned from playing Bully is that you can't assume a nigga can't fight just because he's rich. I ran up on Biff during my first playthrough thinking shit was sweet, and I caught every hand he threw. Some people are just born to fight, and Lee Jung Woo is just that. With that being said, Do Hyun informs Jung Woo that their friend Jung Tae was just released from juvie. At school, Yun Jung Im talks to Kang Duk Jung about the situation with Lee Jung Woo. They're both concerned for him. But here comes that one asshole again, running his mouth. This is the worst type of person. Never mind being a teacher. Just as a person, he's worth nothing. On top of that, rumors about Jung Woo and Jung Im are spreading through the school. Because it's high school. Ki Min Bum hears this from his second-in-command as well, and he looks at him like he's stupid. Because you should know, Ki Min Bum isn't trying to hear or talk about dumb things like that. And of course, no one comes to her defense. Yun Jung Im is alone in her current struggles. Something that happens too often to good people. As for Jung Woo, he's actually meeting up with the same friend previously mentioned. He's traveled to Seoul to see Jung Woo. He won't be going back to school, most likely. Though Jung Woo tells him he should leave, he of course doesn't. Lee Jung Woo himself doesn't understand it, but he doesn't foster the kind of personality or actions that make people want to abandon him, even if their lives are on the line. That's real leadership. And one of the things I find most interesting about leaders and loners is that they're so similar. They're just doing their own thing. Others either follow or reject it, but they're still just doing what they want to do. Yoon Jae-sik contacts Kim In Bum for information. He tells him what he knows, but that isn't much. However, this conversation draws Yun Jung Im into the situation, who at the same time is dealing with her own situation within the school. The worthless teacher is chastising her for getting too involved with the student, and Kang Duk Jung advises her to leave, rather than confronting his coworker about what an asshole he is, because that's what society says is okay. Nothing against the guy, but you slapped Jung Woo. So why don't you speak up against that guy? You know, the one who's being an asshole. Now, what this leads to is Young Jung Im being available to grab off the street when she makes contact with the organization. She's kidnapped violently by Jang Sung Tae, who is intent on disciplining Lee Jung Woo. That's the right-hand man. I tend to remember his name randomly. Usually at the point where he stops being a minor nuisance and someone I want to put to rest myself. At the same time as all this, Jung Woo is catching up with his old friend. He's filling Jung Woo in on why he was in juvie and a few new skills while there, such as lockpicking. It seems Jung Tae himself was on the criminal path as well. When Yun Jung Im is brought before Yun Jae-sik, he reprimands his underling for treating her roughly, and he does so physically. Yun Jae-sik may not be the most likable guy, but he still has his own set of rules, and he abides by them. But his right-hand man actually knows this about him. He's been with him for quite some time. He got those scars working under this man, but that's also why he takes on tasks like these, staining his own hands to keep his boss's name clean. If you're not this kind of guy, but you're in this world, you might need to keep a guy like this nearby. But at the same time, screw that guy. With Yun Jung-in in his hands, however, Hyun Jae-sik now feels that he has room to force Lee Jung Woo's hand. He begins calling and texting him. Jung Woo will not answer, however, and instead gives the phone to his friend. Mistakes are being made across the board here, but that's usually how things get out of hand, isn't it? It's not out of hands if things are going the way they should, right? Kim In-bum has been ordered to guard Yun Jung-in. The familiarity between them allows Jung-in to relax a bit. They discuss the current situation and things with Jung-woo. But no matter how easy he tries to make things feel, the reality is still grim. On top of that, his right-hand man is in his ear, pushing Yun Jae-sik's back against the wall, with his men feeling he's showing Lee Jung-woo a lot of favor. As he should. They can't see how far that kid can rise. That's why they're underlings who got beat up by a 17-year-old kid without ever landing a punch. But he calls in his men to reassure them that he is still their leader. Morale, however, is still low. On top of that, Lee Jung-woo has moved toward the nightclub. He and Jung Tae attempt to infiltrate, but it's closed for the night. However, Kim Jung-woo notices Jung Tae and tells him to bring Jung-woo along. He says he'll lead the way. Kim Jin-woo appears from a doorway around the back. He leads Jung-woo into a narrow path, leaving Jung Tae behind. Now, Kim Jin-woo is aware of two things: Lee Jung-woo's skill and Lee Jung-woo's agility. But he's also aware of Lee Jung-woo's weaknesses. And as Kim Jin-woo walks along, chatting it up, Jung-woo starts to realize that what he's saying isn't meant to be in his favor. Jin-woo has brought Jung-woo here to execute him. And then it dawns on him. It was Kim Jin-woo who hit Yun Jung-hyun with that car, which Jin-woo laughs and jokes about. Kim Jin-woo feels assured of his victory. This isn't a simple high school rumble. He's not fending off a bully or fulfilling a request. Now, for the first time, Lee Jung-woo must fight for his life. And he could not have a more dangerous opponent in that endeavor. Because Kim Jin-woo loves nothing more than he loves violence. He shatters the glass wall window nearby, providing another obstacle for Jung-woo. But it's not just the wall. There's a low ceiling as well. Jin-woo kicks Lee Jung-woo out of the air and into the glass. It shatters, and both the glass and Jung-woo hit the floor. He cuts his hand as he attempts to push himself off the ground. Jin-woo mocks him. He set this moment up perfectly. Jung-woo's agility has been sealed. This limits his current options based on the fighting style he's used so far. Jung-woo's chances of winning are very low. Between his tricks, his ability to read Jung-woo's attacks, and his capacity for violence, Kim Jin-woo has stacked the odds completely in his favor. But Jung-woo's adrenaline is up right now, and ignoring the superficial pain of a few cuts and bruises is nothing. Right now, he has the opportunity to pay back his friend Jung-hyun. There's no way he's going to let that go. As this is going on, Jung Tae realizes something is wrong, but he's been locked out of the pathway by Jin-woo. While Jung-woo is beginning to adapt to Jin-woo's erratic tactics, Jin-woo himself is more than capable of changing up on the fly. And of course, there's the factor of his unique fighting gloves. Even when dodging, you need to be careful. Jung-woo's midsection is torn open from a swing that slips through his defense. Kim Jin-woo has a bad habit of running his mouth and taking his time. He has his own weaknesses. He's become overconfident and is allowing Jung-woo too much time to gather his bearings. Although he attacks Jung-woo's fresh wound, he doesn't aim to finish the fight immediately. And the worst thing he does is tell Jung-woo what to do, stating that fighting means doing whatever it takes to win. Lee Jung-woo hears him loud and clear and takes his advice to heart. He begins to fight as if his life is on the line, and that's why Kim Jin-woo should have eliminated him sooner. Lee Jung Woo will always rise to the occasion. He goes all out. Even wounded, his speed is too much for Kim Jin Woo. On top of that, he's sharpened his movements. They're less wide, more precise, and generating more than enough power to do damage. He allows Jin Woo time to recover. He wants to demolish him and demoralize him. He wants Kim Jin Woo to be absolutely defeated by the end of this fight. No excuses, no cop-outs. He wants Kim Jin Woo to know that he's been completely outclassed by the time this fight is over. As all this is going on, Yun Jae-sik makes his way to the club with his right-hand man. Yeah, that's right. Forgot his name again. The hell with him. What Jae-sik understands that his underlings don't is that age doesn't determine what makes someone a man, or when they become one. You can become a man at 15 if the situation calls for it. Or you could be a grown-ass boy at 45, still shouting at the camera about fighting games and being a lol cow for 15 years running. He knows that Jung Woo's capabilities aren't determined by his age, and that's part of his concern. A kid who can do anything, but still has the mind and temperament of a kid. He already has Kuin Chol's group to deal with, and in the meantime, Kim In-bum continues to try and make Yun Jung-im feel at ease. As the fight between Jung Woo and Jin Woo continues, Jin Woo ties his hair back to keep his vision clear, and then picks up a piece of glass to use as a weapon. He's taking this more seriously, but it's too late. Lee Jung Woo is already in top gear. Even if you get a slice or a strike here, you lost the minute he decided to fight you. Jin Woo's trick is effective once, as Jung Woo takes a hit trying to avoid the glass, but Jung Woo immediately adapts and turns the situation into a one-sided beating. Kim Jin Woo is left twitching, laying on the ground in convulsions, as Jung Woo makes his way through the entrance back to Jung Tae. And because this fight was so quiet, when Yun Jae-sik approaches the nightclub, everything seems absolutely fine from the outside. It isn't until he steps inside that he finds out from Kuin Chol that Kim Jin Woo was done in by Lee Jung Woo. Kuin Chol, being a crafty old-timer, tries to use the situation as leverage to get the nightclub returned. Yun Jae-sik still doesn't know that Busan is behind Kuin Chol now, so he believes that Jin Woo's demise is a problem. In the meantime, Jung Tae has taken Lee Jung Woo somewhere safe. While Jung Woo wants to go to a hospital, Jung Tae informs him that it's a bad idea. He takes care of the situation himself, with skills he likely learned on the inside. In the meantime, Yun Jae-sik's back is against the wall regarding Yun Jung-im, and stupidly, he's taking advice from the guy who put him in that position to begin with. The men are losing faith in Yun Jae-sik because of the way Lee Jung Woo is being handled. On top of that, there's the risk of her going to the cops. Kim In-bum is ordered to bring her to Yun Jae-sik. He does so, still believing there's nothing to worry about, even reassuring her as much. However, when Kim In-bum is told to fall in line with the others, she loses her only support, though he once again tries to reassure her. Kim In-bum himself is still a bit naive, but he probably thought better of his boss. Yun Jae-sik informs the men of the situation, and as Kim In-bum becomes confused about what the man is saying, Yun Jae-sik makes himself clear by once again producing the Arm of Fire. At this point, In-bum can no longer stand still. He challenges the chairman in front of everyone, standing between Yun Jung-im and the chairman. Is he willing to take a bullet for her? It seems like he might be. Even though the discomfort in his face is clear, he doesn't move when Yun Jae-sik points the Arm of Fire at him, until Jung-im herself gives him the word to move. But he doesn't move aside. He puts up his fists. He's willing to fight every man there to prevent this, including the one with the Arm of Fire. Kim In-bum might not make it out of here. He knows that. He's clearly uneasy. He doesn't move with the same certainty that Lee Jung Woo does. But he's still a man, and he's standing on his principles even if it costs him his life. But it doesn't. He puts up a fight, but ultimately they overwhelm him. He's a good enough fighter, but it's his charisma and smarts that pushed him to the top, not just overwhelming displays of force. When Kim Min-bum goes down, Yeon Jung-im speaks up before they finish him off. Her expression shows a strength of resolve. She isn't going to let Kim Min-bum get done in for her, just like she won't let Lee Jung Woo do the same. Kim Min-bum is dragged off, battered and bloody, and Yeon Jung-im calls them all out for what they are. A bunch of gangster punks. Kim Min-bum is the only man in that room, and Yeon Jung-im refuses to allow Lee Jung Woo or him to be anything like them if she can help it. She says that she'll give up her life in place of Jung Woo, so that he doesn't go down this path. With tears streaming down her face, she says, "I'm fine with it." As he points the arm of fire at her, Yeon Jae-sik asks Yeon Jung-im if she's afraid. And she says, "I'm afraid. I want to beg you to let me live. I also have a family, parents that love me. However, courage isn't being unafraid. Courage is, despite being afraid, to do the right thing. Right now, I'm doing the right thing. As a teacher, I'm protecting my pupil." There's a hesitation in Yeon Jae-sik, but he can't turn back now. He too exists in this world, and weakness means becoming prey, food. And like Sully said, I could never be food. If you don't have that mindset, you aren't cut out to be a thug, a gangster, a banger, whatever you want to call it. Your mindset must be predatory, or you will be the prey. But Yeon Jung-im's last thoughts aren't of being food or being afraid or anything. They're of Jung Woo. She wants him to stay away from this place, from this world of punks and criminals. She believes in him, even giving up her life to display that faith.